coming into any sort of recession, you have to take responsibility and say, you know what? I don't have to fully participate in that. Will I be impacted? Absolutely, right? Let's not like be naive.
Let's be real.
It.
Yeah, we understand we understand the climate.
Yeah, but some people make more money during recessions than at other times because while everyone else is in retreat mode, they're in an advanced mode.
All right, everyone, we are live. Brand Talk Live this morning. Happy Friday, first off. I'm in Arizona, it's 118. I hear Portland's, going to be a nice, brisk 85, which is like perfect weather. So I'm super excited to have this guest on today. And we're kind of doing role reversal. Like, I was on this show recently. He had me on. I was in the hot seat. And now I'm like, no. We're going to switch this. We're going to put him in the hot seat, see what it's like. So I have the host, Justin Stoddart of Think Bigger Real Estate, probably one of the biggest thinkers, most prolific creators I know, especially in the real estate industry. And I'm going to put you in that also as well. He is the sales executive of Old Republic Title. So Justin, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. It's really good to be with you again. I love it. We need to just keep this rolling.
I know, right? Like, just, let's just keep it going, keep the momentum going for sure. So I amply titled this Think Bigger or Go Home. Of course, your title, your show is called Think Bigger Real Estate. But really, I feel like it's also appropriate right now, right? I even said, like on my post, pre-COVID, thinking big was good enough. Now thinking bigger is the motto. So talk about that. How did you come up with the name? What was the start? What was the mindset when you were like, okay, I'm going to start this show, Think Bigger Real Estate?
Yeah, no, great question. It takes me back probably 3 years. A good friend of mine who I have the good fortune of working with, he and I were kind of schemed on doing a podcast together. We found out it's really difficult to have two hosts and one guest all coordinate schedules. So I ended up taking the reins and running with it. But I give him credit for the name Think Bigger. Originally it was called Think Bigger Mastermind. And it was really this online mastermind of getting together with big thinkers, high achievers, and learning together. Realized that I really wanted to serve a more specific niche. I must obviously come out of the real estate industry, not as a real estate agent, but out of the title and escrow world. My role in particular is not to do the title and escrow. My role is to help real estate agents want to do business with Old Republic Title. So I'm more on the marketing sales side and really kind of business consultancy side is kind of how I position myself. And so anyway, started really with the intent to just have an excuse to be in touch with top producing agents in our area. It's like, hey, this will be a great way. They can't turn that down. And I realized once I got going, I was like, I really like this. And it became much, much bigger than that, right? The name of the show started to penetrate my own mind and soul. And I realized like, this is a movement. This is all of us. I really believe that the greatest untapped natural resource in the world is human potential. That each and every one of us sit on this concealed, massive amount of potential. And it has become my mission to help wake people up and help them realize the potential that's inside of them, and then to inspire, empower, and help them to live in pursuit of that potential. And so it's become something much bigger than what I thought it was going to be. And it's something that I absolutely love now. And it's fueling my passion for sure.
Man, I love that. I say all the time, I don't want to be the person that puts a ceiling on myself. And I literally had a coaching session last night. And my client we were talking about, we go from their goals and their passion and everything. I'm like, and she mentioned like, I don't want to be unrealistic. I'm like, look, I hate the word realistic. Like there's no, no one knows like what the potential is. No one knows what they can get to. And so I don't want to be put caps on myself or anyone else. Now, understanding that it is definitely hard work, but you can do anything. So take me back. How long have you actually been in the mortgage title industry, title game, real estate game? How long have you been doing this? And how did you get into that in the first place?
Yeah. Great question. So it was 2001, 2002. And I actually went to work for a high-end home builder. That was my first kind of entry. In fact, prior to that, I'd flipped a few homes with the help of an investor. I realized I really liked the real estate industry. I liked kind of long-term. I'd read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I realized that there were
Love that book.
It's a great book. Classic. Absolutely classic. And I realized that there was a lot of opportunity within the general real estate industry. So I decided to go off and get an education, studied construction management, went to work for a high-end home builder, eventually left and started my own high-end home building company.
Gotcha.
So 2008, 2009 came along and my pipeline of $1 million homes turned into a pipeline of like kitchen and bathroom remodels and repairs. And I realized it was really kind of a gut check for me to realize like, do I really love building homes? Because if I do, I'll wait it out. People were telling me 5 years it'll be back. And I'm thinking my mid-20s, I'm like 5 years seems like forever. I'm not going to wait for that unless I really love it. And I realized I really didn't love developing land and building people. I didn't love developing land and building homes. What I did love is developing people and building business.
Yeah.
And so that really became my passion, and was recruited back into the real estate industry, but in a role where I really get to do that, which is develop people and build business as opposed to develop land and build homes.
So I want to kind of go in a different direction, because you've been in this for a while, right? And I started my business originally like in my 20s, like 2009. I went through that recession. I had this conversation with other entrepreneurs, and I'm under the impression that because we've actually gone through it, and hopefully this doesn't get as bad as it may get. But I'm also realistic. I see the pattern recognition, right? How do you think that going through the recession, 2008, 2009, has prepared you for what may or may not come forward with what we're seeing right now with, COVID-19 and the crisis we're going through?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that there's, you have to love what you do. And regardless of any economy, people succeed.
Yeah.
And I think it's obviously easier to succeed when you've got like the wind at your back, right? And the economy is behind you. But there's people that succeed even in downtimes. And I think that's part of the mission of Think Bigger, is that it's really an accountability. It's a responsibility of taking responsibility for oneself to say, you know what, there might be a recession going on. It doesn't mean that I have to fully participate in it. And the way that people fully participate in it is that they allow the realities, the worst of the realities, to consume their mind incessantly. And so they take everything that's bad out there and they bring it into their reality right now. And so that's their reality becomes that way. In fact, I've fallen prey to this a little bit in watching like the media and the news, right? You see some tough stuff going on.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how when you watch that and you inundate yourself with like updates of what's happening, you start to believe that right here in my house where my family's living, that there's crazy things going on. And I have to realize, like, I want to have empathy and serve where I can serve and lift where I can lift to those that are in those positions. But that's not my reality right now, right? So I need to stay empowered so I can help other people. And so I think coming into any sort of recession, you have to take responsibility and say, you know what? I don't have to fully participate in that. Will I be impacted? Absolutely, right? Let's not like be naive.
Let's be real.
It.
Yeah, we understand. We understand the climate.
Yeah, but some people make more money during recessions than at other times, because while everyone else is in retreat mode, they're in an advanced mode. And so I think it really becomes a time, if you're prepared mentally, financially as well, then you're really able to advance and have larger market share coming out the other side. So, I think there's opportunities in all markets.
You know what? I love you said market share. I say that all the time. Like, this is the time, really, like maybe from a dollars perspective, you won't make as much as you did in 2018, 2019. But from a market share perspective, like, there's absolutely opportunity. I literally was listening to something which I know you appreciate. I was listening to a Gary Vee podcast. So it was like marketing for the now. And one of the people they interviewed was like, what she said was, never waste a good crisis. And literally, there unfortunately, like I said, let's be real. It is what it is. But there is always opportunity in chaos. I mentioned that numerous times. And honestly, like, this is the time, pun intended, to start thinking bigger, right? To really make sure, focus on what you're bringing in. Make sure your thinking is right, and really, set yourself up for success in like 2021, 2022. Yeah, so think bigger. You do it. I always get on real estate agents for being the same, for not being as creative, for really doing, they really do a lot of what everyone else has done. When something's working, they'll kind of do a version of it. And I always say, also, I'll bring compared to fashion. I think we talked about this when I was on your show. I'm like, look, in the Northwest, Portland specifically, people don't dress up. So when people don't dress up and you are the person that actually dresses up and exudes that type of taste, it has an even bigger impact, an even bigger impression, because it's so uncommon. When we talk about marketing and being creative in real estate, because it is so uncommon, there is even a greater opportunity for people like yourself. So talk about that. Why do you think that is, that real estate as a whole holds on to antiquated ideas? And I don't want to put you on the spot, but you are the person to ask. You've been doing the show for a while. Antiquated ideas. And let's talk about the actual benefits of doing something and start being creative. Because again, I feel like it's enormous in good times and bad times, being the one that's actually on the front line, that's pushing the industry forward with creativity.
I appreciate that, man. So, there's this concept called protectionism, where you don't necessarily want to let others in for fear that they will take your place, right? It's really comes from a scarcity mentality. And I think the real estate industry has gotten really good at learning from each other. And there's some big voices within real estate that say, if somebody is not a real estate agent, we can't listen to them. Like, we listen to ourselves. You have to be in the fight, in the trenches, actually out on listing appointments, or you have no ideas that we should listen to. And I think that's a detriment to the industry, right?
Yeah.
I find myself in that spot, right? I'd go on listing appointments as a high-end home builder, but I've never had my real estate license, right?
Okay.
And I'm constantly studying other industries to see what's working, and even to study disruption. Like, what are industries that are ahead of us as far as getting hit with disruption, where algorithms are replacing margins. And I think we can learn a lot by looking outside of our industry a little bit, and even listening to people who are experts in other industries to see what we can learn from them. And I think that gives an agent the ability to have a little bit of a diversified opinion, as opposed to just copying what Sue down the hall is doing or what John across the street's doing, right?
Yeah.
Which makes you very commoditizable. Now you're in a dead price race between Sue and John, right?
Yeah.
Whereas when you stand out, you take a great idea from somebody potentially from outside the industry, like yourself, right? You know, a license, right? But you bring brilliant ideas to real estate agents from other industries.
I've been recruited numerous times to get my license, but I refused. I worked with too many realtors to ever get my license. So I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. No, I mean, that is so true. I know, even for me, like when I was doing fashion, like I would actually try to look outside of fashion. Like I would actually look at, real estate, interior design, other shows, because at the end of the day, business is business, right? And if I can incorporate or integrate other industries that are working and take some of those tips and tricks and some of the processes that they're doing, right, and bring it and then retroactively fit it to fashion, like now I'm totally different. And that allows me to stand out. Talking about standing out, at the end of the day, regardless of the industry, your brand is what sells you, right? What you're selling, really within any industry at this point, can be a commodity. Like everything, it can be commoditized at some point. You're seeing it in real estate, you're seeing it in fashion, et cetera, designers, whatever, stylists, you have Trunk Club. So talk about the brand aspect as a realtor. I know that's what you talk about. It's very big on that. How important is it for a realtor going forward to have a brand? And how is that going to impact them, whether they're going to be, let me actually add this to it. I feel like what COVID has done, and when we go through recessions, to a certain degree, it really separates the haves from the have-nots. Mm-hmm. You mentioned earlier, like when you have the wind at the back and everyone is winning, it's easy for someone to front and be successful. But when we get punched in the jaw, if you will, that's when we really can separate like who's here or not. So talk about now the importance of having a brand and how is that going to impact the industry going forward.
I think people are getting their ideas and their perceptions as far as who's good and who's going to best serve them differently than they ever used to. When I got involved in the industry, there was an agent who was selling, probably close to 100 homes a year. And there was an agent in his office that had sold maybe 10 homes in her entire career. And by way of illustration, we opened up and Googled their names and brought up their online reviews and their social media accounts. And you would have thought that the two's roles were reversed. You would have thought that she had sold 100 homes a year for the past 2 decades.
Gotcha.
So he was almost obsolete online.
Yeah.
And again, to his crowd and to the people that he served, it was okay, right? He had established his brand in a way that worked for him. Yes. However, I think we have to be careful about the fact that people are getting perceptions of brand different than they ever used to.
Absolutely.
I'm not just saying it's social media. I interviewed somebody earlier this week on my show, and he says direct mail's a killer way for him to do it. Now he's on his direct mail. He's highlighting his social, views and all that stuff. Absolutely. So he's doing it like in a really brilliant way. But again, I think branding, the way I see it, and I've learned a lot from you about this topic, is it's what people perceive about you, right? Mm-hmm. We're kind of marketing, putting out there what we think. Yeah. If you were to ask somebody else about me, then that's my brand, right? It's not so much what I'm saying, it's what other people are hearing and what
it's your reputation.
Yeah. It's what other people are hearing, not just hearing me say, but it's their whole perception of everything that they're seeing, they're hearing, they're watching, they're learning, all of those things compiled to if I weren't in the room and someone were to say, who's Justin Stoddart? Like the way they describe me is really what my brand is. And I think we have to be kind of honest about how do we go about establishing what I like to call well, it's mind share, but it's how much real estate do you own in people's brains, right?
Yeah.
And you know, it's always been location, location, location when it comes to real estate. And you take that same concept and you say location, location, location in people's brains. You have to own a place in their brain. And the more real estate you own in their brain, the bigger your brand is, the more clear your brand is, the more likely they're going to reach out to you when they have a real estate need, or when real estate comes up and somebody needs somebody, you're going to be inserted there. So it's not just about being clear on it, but really kind of being omnipresent, like having your brand be very present. You know?
Love that, love that, love that. So from you who is an expert, like I said, you've been doing Think Bigger for a while. You were probably one more prominent, I would say, from a creative perspective. And we met, actually, I met you through a colleague of mine. And then we were at an event because another colleague of mine, a friend, was like, oh, these are like the creators of the creators in real estate, which is funny because, again, I'm not in real estate, but that's how we kind of met. But for me, how does someone do that, right? Like, let's be clear. Everyone's not good on video, right? How does someone start elevating the brand? What are some tips, some tactics that they can use? And I also want to temper their expectations. Like I also, like, for me, I want to be transparent. Like, let's be real about, you've been doing this for 3 years. Talk through the process. You didn't start getting like Grant Cardone on your show, like, which, you know, you've had some heavy hitters on your show. Talk about the actual process, but what can someone do to get started?
And I think you just said it right there. It's just get started. Too often we are stuck in this, I'll get started as soon as I'm better. And it just doesn't work that way. That's like saying, like, I'm going to go harvest, like as soon as the crop's ready, like, or I'm going to go plant as soon as the harvest is ready. Like, it just doesn't work that way. You have to be bad. Like, you don't have to, in fact, it was a quote by Jim Rohn. You don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. And I would tell people, wherever you're at, and with whatever modality like you are actually drawn to, because the reality is consistency is what matters. Like, you have to be consistent day in, day out, putting content out there that reaches people, touches people, moves people, leads people. And if you are doing it in a modality that you legitimately aren't going to get up and do day in and day out, then pick a different one. If it's a blog and you like to write and you don't like to talk, well, if you don't like to talk, my guess is maybe real estate isn't your thing, right? Like, I would really promote video, right? But what I'm saying, if it's not video, then choose something, but do something to get your thoughts out to the world on a very consistent basis. If you can't get up and do it every single day, then it's not going to work. Like, it's just not going to work. It's going to be diluted by this massive information that is constantly running through every social medium, through every medium period, whether it be your mailbox, your email inbox. Like, it's just, we're inundated with information. You have to be consistent. And so you have to choose something that you're willing to get up and do every single day. And again, I get people push back and say, well, like, I'm not good at video. Like, I heard you say that. Obviously, people are looking at you and they're being like, well, if I look like Brandon Gasson, if I dress like Brandon Gasson, I'd be good at video, right? I do that all day long.
Keep going.
Like, the reality is, you would not, I'm going to call people's bluff on this. Yeah. You would not have chosen real estate. If you were that ashamed of your face or your voice, you wouldn't have chosen a public facing profession like real estate. You knew getting into this, when you sat down to get your license, that, hey, I'm going to have to like talk to people and people are going to have to see my face, right? If you were really concerned
1,000%.
about that, you'd be in some back of the office job, right? Where they didn't require that. And so I call people's bluff and they say, no, don't give yourself that out. You need to get good at video because that has the deepest penetration and gives you the largest stake of land, if you will, in people's brains, right? They see you, they feel you, they hear it. It's almost like being in person, but it's leverage, it's scalable because video lives on long after we're talking.
Man, that is so true. You said so many jewels right there that I say, obviously we all start at zero, right? And we're all bad. And I tell people at the beginning when I do, conferences or whatever, I'm like, look, when you're bad, the only people that's seeing you is your family and friends. They're going to love you anyway. Right? But you have to work that muscle. It's like anything else. Like, you have to do it. The more you do it, the more reps you get in, the better you get. But also it has to be something you love. And I feel like anything can work if you're great at it. But let's talk about the quantity of actual creative too, because I feel like that's important, especially now, everyone's home or they're home more, their habits are changing. Everyone's spending more time online, even than they were before, which was amazing. People thought we were always online anyway. We're inundated with so much information. It is hard to acquire that location, that space in their mind, right? That market share in their mind. How much quantity do you need to actually grow your brand, to scale it to where it's actually becoming ROI positive?
I think that just kind of depends upon how big you want to go and how fast you want to get there. I would
Yeah.
say at minimum, you need to be putting out content daily,
Gotcha.
right? At minimum, you're doing like some stories on Instagram at minimum, right? And I think if you were to look, going back to this location concept, right? If you were to look at where are most people spending their time when they look at their phone, it's probably Instagram, Facebook, right? And if you were to say, okay, what's the best real estate? Like the stories are at the top. They're like the corner of a busy intersection.
Yeah.
Like your face has the ability to be
That's a
right
good point.
there. If you'll go find the people that you want to interact with or that you want to see your stuff, go purposely, intentionally interact with them, like their stories. Like it's so easy to just give someone like a clap or a hey, I love that, right? On their story. Guess what? And now if you're putting out stories, you're going to be showing, as soon as they look at Instagram, your face is right there. It's hard to be forgotten. At minimum, do that, right? And then it just depends upon how big you want to go. And I think, creativity, not doing the same format in the same place. And that's stuff that I'm learning, right? And I think, to your point, Brandon, people might look at you and say like, man, he's got it dialed. He's so good. Right? I would say you compared to Oprah, like you might be like, I'm not that good, right?
Not at all. Not at all. Like not even close.
So like, what does good mean? Right? All of us are good. I mean, you could ask somebody that has no knowledge of the English language and you tell them to do videos in English and they'd be like, no, you're really good. I can't do it. Like everybody's good, right? And there's always going to be people that are better. There's always going to be people that aren't good. So don't hesitate to jump in and get started. And again, I think the more that you start to make your brand not something that you go and do, but just you're documenting, right? And we've probably learned this from Gary Vaynerchuk as well, is just document your journey. Like, what are you doing today? Be sure and take a picture of it and put some text out there. You don't have to like necessarily time block, okay, this is going to be my marketing time. Like you're marketing all the time. You're just telling people what you're up to, what clients you're serving, what ideas you have, what questions a client just asked you that you can then say, I just had this question asked from a client, thought some of you would have it as well. Here's the answer. I mean, you're getting those all day long, I would imagine. Just go through your emails and look at the stuff that's there and then document to a bigger audience what you just learned and how you just serve people.
There is content opportunities everywhere. And I literally say, content is not a timing issue, it's a strategy issue. And it's just being aware, being cognizant of, I actually want to put out content. I want to reach my audience. But yeah, there's no excuse not to get content, literally. What's interesting, what you said is I related what you just said about stories, or even this when we do Facebook Live, because now everyone's being inundated with that notification. Mm-hmm. Go to where the most expensive real estate is, right? The best real estate. So if we're talking about real estate, like location, go like Facebook Live and Instagram stories is the Malibu beachfront property. Like that's the Pearl District condo of social media real estate, if you will. Like go to where people are going to be seen, the most likely, that's going to give you the most ROI positive, and the most value for your time. Talk about the value aspect though of social media. Again, I kind of go in on real estate agents, and I think it's easy because I know so many of them. Most of them, what they do is they will post, but their posts will be mostly selfish, right? And I say that they're like, okay, come to my open house. Okay, I'm going to do this house, or I just sold this house, whatever, right? When that's a little bit better, but they lack value. And one of the great things, and one thing I love about your show is, yes, you realize like you do mortgages. Your show is not about, your show is completely of service and of help, but it keeps you top of mind. And if someone ever needs a mortgage, they know who to go to, right? So talk about that.
Title and escrow,
excuse me. So talk about that. How is, I said Old Republic title. Yeah, it's in the name. So talk about that. How do you think about, okay, I want to actually give service as opposed to try to sell myself all the time? Because I always say, like, you can't determine when someone's ready to buy, but you can be their resource. And then when they are ready to buy, you're the first person they're going to think of.
Yeah. Awesome question. So what I found is that, just to your point, the more value that I can give away, the more that I'm at the center of value, the more likely it is that when I reach out to them to be in business with them, or they need somebody, again, I own space in their brain, Yeah. And I think like the cool part is, if you're constantly giving value, the side effect is that you're getting more and more valuable, right? So I've done a couple hundred interviews with people that are way bigger thinkers, way higher achievers than I am. And the fact that starts to rub off on you a little bit, And so I would encourage you, if you're trying to think of what to do with marketing, like you said, having a way where you're constantly bringing value to others at minimum is going to make you more valuable, right?
Absolutely.
At minimum,
Yeah.
And at maximum, it's going to cause a whole bunch of people to want to be in business with you because you're now the expert. And so I think it's a wise strategy. People these days, because there's so much information out there, they're able to consume information. You just need to be at the center of that, you know. And to your point, I do think that there are a lot of people that are telling the story wrong.
Yeah.
They're telling the story as if they're the hero of the story. Look at me, I sold X number of homes. Look at me, I did this. Look, you know, and it's, as opposed to, they're not the hero in the story. They're the narrator, right? They're telling the story because your clients, they actually want to be the hero of their own story, right? Donald Miller's Story Brand, fantastic read, teaches this concept that you're not Luke Skywalker in these stories. You're Yoda. Your job is to create Luke Skywalkers to where you want everyone that sees your social feed saying, man, I need that Yoda in my corner so I can be the Skywalker, right? And I can overcome Vader. So I think it's this, be in the show. Like it's your show, your face has to be in it, but be highlighting the success of other people, because then other people will say, I want that success. I guess I go to him to get that.
I mean, that is so, I mean, you say you're the narrator, right? And you're creating a narrative, and it's something as simple as, instead of saying, okay, I sold this house in 30 days for a top price. Why was that house sold? Like, what did the clients do? What did the sellers do? Why were they open to, negotiation, whatever? And just doing that from a buyer or seller perspective, let me give you 5 tips to make sure that your offer goes through, right? Like, literally just giving that would work and would actually attract more buyers or sellers. Or they did this. They staged their living area. We put up paint and give photos, and now you're providing value. And just that little switch of thought process really takes it to another level. Think bigger. You've scaled. Let's talk about your ascension, right? I think this is the time for me to, give flowers, if you will, and spotlight you. You've got, like I said, some big names on your show. So talk about that. And I also want to talk about the arc from where you started to what the reality was when you started getting some of those people on your show. Because again, my thing is, I want to highlight what's the real strategy, how long it actually takes. I don't want someone to think that they're going to get Grant Cardone in a week, right? You know what I mean? So talk about the arc and how long it took you to get to that point. But now where you're at, where you're getting people like him, like the lifestylists on your show. I mean, you really hit the top of the I'm joking, of course. True, but you really, not me at all, but really you had some of the biggest people in the industry on your show. So let's talk about some people you've had and how you got them and what that process was like.
It's interesting. A lot of it has to do with my own confidence level. I think having a platform that's established and you've got shows and you've got a brand and you've got that all matters, right? Yeah. Because you're not going to get big names that come to a mom and pop shop, right? There's got to be some legitimacy to what you're doing. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, I was just talking with, interacting with Tom Ferry a couple days ago. Okay. And I thought to myself, why have I waited so long for, to do this? Yeah. He's like, hey man, yeah, we're going to get it put together. And I thought to myself,
there's genius in audacity, man. There's genius in audacity.
And it's interesting how most of it's not like I try Tom Ferry every day. Yeah. He responded my first time. I followed up again. He's like, yeah, sorry. It's just been so busy. I do, 5 shows a week. He says, we're totally going to do it. And I'm like, I felt excited about that. But at the same time, I'm like, why am I waiting so long? Who else? Who else do I need to be talking to? Right. Exactly. So I started reaching out to Tom Brady for reality Tom. I'm like, hey, I get your initials behind my thing here. I was like, you need to be on my show.
Now is perfect.
So, I'm starting to think bigger. I starting to rub off on me, but a lot of it is a confidence game. And I think every real estate agent that's listening to this would say, when you walk into a listing appointment and you're super confident, you're invincible, right? Yeah. You're just invincible because the clients are actually paying you to have the confidence to solve their problems, right? Mm-hmm. They're buying your confidence. And so if you don't have much and you're super insecure, people are going to feel that, right? There's an energy that's someone's like, I don't think this is their first time, or I think they're not so sure they belong selling homes in this market. But if you walk in and you're confident, and part of that confidence comes from actually knowing what you're talking about, right? Yeah. You actually kind of have a decent pitch, an actual kind of track record. It all comes through experience. So back to your point, how long does it take? It's accelerated when you just stop getting out of your own way and you just start having the confidence. Yes. But that confidence, again, it's kind of like someone explained it to me once as the dew descends upon grass. It happens so subtly that you don't know. In fact, here's a story. I was a freshman in college. Somebody who's now become one of my greatest life's mentors. He was the new university president at the same year that I was a freshman in college. And he would speak And I was just like glued to him. I'm like, this is a man I want to be like, both spiritually, professionally, as a family man. I was like, I got to get to know this guy. Yeah. And so I was actually taking a public speaking class in college at the time. And I just called the president's office and said, I'd like a chance to speak with President Bednar. Can I meet with him? And they're like, sure, schedule an appointment. And I remember being out in the lobby, sitting in the lobby, and he's talking to his secretary. And he says, okay, like what's next? And she said, you've got an appointment with a student, Justin Stoddart. And he said, you know what it's about? She's like, no, I don't know what it's about. And I'm thinking, and he's kind of laughs like, oh, okay. And I come into his office and I had this concept of like, I guess you just don't do that. I guess people just don't reach out to the university president and schedule an appointment to ask them like how they became a good speaker. And I was naive to the fact that, thankfully, that there's kind of these social norms that act as these barriers to our success. Was like, well, I can't actually reach out to Grant Cardone, and I can't reach out to Tom Ferry. I'm this guy.
Yeah.
It's like, no. Like, these are people just like you and I. They want to serve people just like you and I. They are willing to contribute. If you can add some sort of value proposition to them, like, there's a chance that they'll do it. And if they don't, then try somebody else. And so I learned that lesson, and I've had to relearn it, is that so much more is attainable if we'll just get out of our own way.
Without question.
And actually believe and do the work. We actually have to do the work, right? But sometimes we don't do the work because we don't believe it's going to actually create anything, or we don't think that we're ready for that yet, or that we're worthy of that, right? And that's kind of the thinking bigger concept, is like, get that out of the way and go for it, right? Because there's so much potential inside of you. It's crazy.
I think there's three things you touched on that was amazing. A, you had credibility, right? You put in the reps, you put in the work. You actually had a viable program that you've been doing for a while. You came with value. I feel like so many times people reach out and they think of, they know what they're going to get out of the situation, but they don't think from the other person's perspective. So you come with value. Also, like, reaching up, like, most of these people that you're reaching up to, at some point they've had that same, experience, and they were fearless, if you will, compared to the general norm, to where they had mentors, and, and how great that is. And they were like, you know what, they see a little bit of yourself potentially in them. And they're like, I had to go through these same ropes. And you'd be surprised how many people that are in those places that are willing to help if you reach out. Like I have people even, on a very minimal level, whenever someone emails me, I'm willing to help, because I know what it takes to even hit that DM and send that message. But some people are unwilling to even try and reach up. And it's like, most people, they're used to that. Like, that they've gone through that same process, and they respect it, and they're more than willing to help you out.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. I agree. People like that have had success, they didn't get that way by not helping anybody. They got that way because they live their lives reaching out and helping people, and they get it, right? Yeah. And they find people that are hungry enough. And the reality is, of all the people out there, there's few that actually have either the work ethic and the confidence to reach out to them. We think that these people are probably inundated with requests. They're actually, as you talk to them, they're actually not, because most people stop because of that fear of like, I'm sure they get bothered all the time. You'd be surprised how many people actually don't have the confidence to reach out.
Well, I know I've read, and I'm going to say it wrong. It's like they used to say, like, for like top level executive positions, there's so many less applicants for that than the typical jobs, right? Because again, like what you're saying, like, some people are afraid or don't reach out, and it's like, there's actually more room up there once you've actually exceeded that. You're qualified, of course, once you've exceeded that threshold. I want to definitely let you plug away. Before I get that, I have to ask you a question, because I have to pay the bills. What is your dream car? If you could have any car, what would you be driving?
This is going to sound kind of funny. I'd actually like a dream. It's more of like a vehicle. It's okay. Actually, I've been thinking about this, like a massive, motor coach, like the giant, beautiful motor coaches. So my answer was going to be this: as long as it's big enough to hold my favorite people, which my wife and 6 kids.
Yes.
Then, I don't care so much what it is. However, I have been dreaming about how cool it would be to have one of those gorgeous big, motor coaches, and go across the country, have a studio in the back where I'm filming Think Bigger Real Estate, right, from the back of it.
On the road, right?
That's right. Yeah. So
that is awesome. And the reason I asked, okay, so I'm in Arizona now, part-time. I'm really thinking about a Bronco, but I also want to get a Cullinan SUV. And I'm saying that because, are you familiar with Taste of Motorsports?
Not that much. I mean, no, go ahead.
Okay. So this is their 3rd year. So I'm bringing them up because they're a sponsor of the show, and they are like the upper echelon, like the highest quality, like, car show with food. It's going on in Portland in August. And so if you're in Portland, you need to check it out. If people that are watching this use code lifestyle, you get 15% off. It is literally like Ferraris, Lamborghinis. They have people from Seattle coming down. And the greatest thing about it is it's on the track at PIR. So if you have one of those cars, you can actually take that car on the track. I don't know how a motor coach would do on the track. I don't know how it would handle the corners. But if you have one of those cars, or if you want to test drive, so I have to actually put out that plug.
That sounds amazing.
It's gonna be ridiculous. I'm literally flying up for it. Like I said, it's food, and you get the racetrack, and you get the cars. It's like the best of the best. Talking about your family before we plug you away, talk about that. Could you share a lot of that? I tell people all the time, like me personally, I'm super private. Social media, you can share what you want to share. There's no like, book or aspect you have to follow, you know what I mean? No rule book, if you will, for social media. But you are definitely like a big proponent of like showing your family. You have an amazing family, gorgeous kids, gorgeous wife. Talk about that, how you incorporate, because that is a part of your brand, how you were like incorporating your family into your brand. Because when people see you, they know that you are in fact a family man, a great guy, and that's prevalent on all your social media platforms.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I feel like it'd be disingenuous if I didn't talk about my family, and I don't mean that to anybody that doesn't do that, because I know some people are private and there's some privacy concerns, and I have those fears, right?
Yeah.
Of like, what kind of weirdos actually watching my kids? Like, that's a concern to me. But I'm prayerful about that, right? And I feel like it's the right thing to do. Here's part of the reason why I share that. Number one, because it's just it's genuinely me, right? That's just who I am. That's what fuels me. That's what drives me. But secondly, I believe that there's a like a really strong movement towards telling people that happiness for guys is not actually family life, right? And I've never done the alternative, so I can't speak to the other side, right? I can't speak to the fact of not being married, not having any kids, just living like a solo life.
A bachelor,
like a bachelor life. I can't speak that isn't happiness, but I do know that I do want to put the case out there that it's a really good life. Because sometimes you get kind of this stigma of like the ball and chain and, I can't wait till my kids are out of the house. Like, I hate my kids. And I'm like, you know what? I think you're doing it wrong. Or you're talking to people that don't actually have them, because to me, that's actually the greatest source of joy. I think families is actually part of the reason why we're here on this earth. Right. And I think at a deeper level, it defines kind of who we are all the way back to our ancestors, to our posterity. And so I just want to make the case that you can live a big life and still have a big family. Like, you don't have to choose one or the other. Like, I'm going to be a baller and be or I'm going to be a family man and be broke. Like, you could actually have both, right? So I'm just making the case that thinking bigger can include actually family life and a big family life.
Man, I love that. And like I said, you definitely are a spokesperson for that lifestyle. I appreciate it. So before we go, man, what's next? What's in the future? What does the future hold for Think Bigger Real Estate? I know you have big ideas and grand schemes of what you're going to do next. So give us a glimpse. Give us an insight what's coming next from Justin and Think Bigger Real Estate.
I'm actually so I'm launching a book here in probably the next 60 days called the Upstream Model. The concept on the Upstream Model is that real estate agents typically come to this conflict, which is I can either scale my business, and I'll do that by buying leads, or I can have a smaller business and work by referral. And so they're torn. Like I want to have a big business. I want to think bigger and have a big business, but I really like working via relationships. Yeah. And so I've uncovered a model that is actually I started to discover in my home building company that allows people to scale a referral-based business beyond just their friends and family.
Okay.
And so that will be releasing here in the next 60 days. And I've got a digital course that will be accompanying that, not just to give people the concept, but really give them the tactical tools on how to implement it, how to work by referral, by relationships, but also do a lot of business and not just have that business tied to friends, family, but you can actually scale it. So that's kind of the project I'm working on and spend a lot of time on in the after hours that I'm excited to be releasing here before long. So.
Man, I am excited for that. We are on the same wavelength. I have a membership that's literally going to launch in about 18 days. So I'm already going gray. It has been more, I don't know if it's COVID. I'm going to blame it on COVID. I've been going gray. That's why I just shaved and get the goatee. I saw you had a goatee recently. You shaved it up. I had to get the goatee, man. That's like, but I'm super excited. So I'm excited for you. Man, I thank you for coming on, for returning the favor. Let people know where they can find you, all your social media, how often your show is on, and then plug what before we say bye.
Okay. I appreciate it, man. So again, Justin Stoddart, last name ends with a T. You can see it up on the screen there. And that's kind of at Justin Stoddart. You can find me in most places. My show, we film twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And yeah, just my kind of the proposition that I have with the show is I'm constantly, because I work knee to knee with real estate agents in my day job as a title and escrow sales executive, I'm constantly discovering what's the biggest challenge, what's the biggest thing that's keeping you back now. And then I'm seeking out the best people in the world to help solve that problem. And so that's what the show is. It's a solution to what I'm seeing agents' biggest problems are. So if people are interested in really being, this time we're in a pretty polarized world right now, unfortunately. And so I know even social media can be really tough for people. I want there to be a safe place where people can go. And so I've developed a group, really a mastermind via a Facebook group called Think Bigger Real Estate. And I would encourage people to go and spend some time there. If you're feeling like, man, I can't do Facebook this election season, it's just too much for me. It's going to depress me. It's going to infuriate me. I'm going to hate all my friends. Go spend some time within Think Bigger Real Estate. Participate. I'm putting stuff in there that's really going to, rather than close your thinking and make you like people less, it's going to expand your thinking and help you love people more and want to serve them more.
Man, that is great. I couldn't say it better myself. Think bigger. You think bigger. And you provide the gateway for all of us to think bigger. So I appreciate you. And man, keep going. I'll be looking. Let us know when the book comes out. Again, share it. I will share it when it's ready to go. I think you said 60 days or so. So the Upstream Model is what it's called?
Yep, the Upstream Model. Yeah.
There you go.
Hey, all right, Justin, by the way, I just got to give you a shout out for those that are listening. This guy honestly is one of not just the sharpest dressed guys I know, but he's one of the smartest individuals I know. He's just a good guy. Thank you for the opportunity. Total privilege, man. Learning from you and being friends with you. It's awesome. So thanks for all you're doing to serve the real estate community. We all need it. We all need to get better from people like you.
Man, I appreciate that so much. Likewise, like I said, it was so much fun coming on your show, and it was like, man, there's so much energy, and I felt amped up, and you had great questions, and we had a great conversation. I was like, I have to bring him on. So, in this, I have a conference coming up. We'll talk about this offline. Okay. There's a conference coming up that I would love to have you take part in. But yeah, we'll talk about that later. I won't give too much away. All right, man. Well, enjoy your Friday, enjoy your weekend, enjoy the beautiful weather in Portland, and I will talk to you soon.